All right, welcome to the show. Second video day here on New Year's Eve, 2024. Wow, this year's gone by really quick, and it just seems like not that long ago it was this time last year. Older, it's either I'm getting older and the days are going by quicker, or what. Which leads us to what we want to talk about today. And as the last video I was talking about, we were going to kind of do a video on this. It's going to be kind of a little bit of a short one, but we want to throw it out there just for people's knowledge and the things that they need to consider when it comes to the world of paganism and the world they currently live in. And we're going to explore where the months and the days of the week come from. I mean, have you ever asked that question? Have you asked the question of why is it called Monday, or why is it called Tuesday or Wednesday? Have you ever wondered where the word January comes from, or February? Or are you just like most people? They just don't even question things like that. And they just roll with it. And they live their whole lives and never even put any thought into it. But if you're of the former rather than the latter, well, you come to the right place, because today we're going to discuss where some of these things come from. And we're going to kind of do them in a short video. But trust me, there's a lot on the internet can back all this up. You can do this all in your own personal research. But let's see if we can get you started in the right direction on where this stuff comes from. So we're going to go down here to the first thing here. Let's go to the Bible. The Word of God says here in Exodus chapter 12, talking about, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. When is this? Well, you can read all this and realize what it is. You can go to the reference here, and the reference says here, in the first month, in the 14th day of the month, ye shall have the Passover, a feast of 7 days. Unleavened bread shall be eaten. Okay, so when is that typically done? It's done in the spring. So the beginning of the month should actually begin in the spring. Well, how it was done was as that the barley had to be ripe, ready to eat. So since the Passover is the barley harvest, so that's how they dictated how the beginning of the months would begin. If the barley was ready, then you began that first month. If the barley wasn't ready, this is how, like, what we do today with our calendar with leap year. You know how it can get out of sorts. The way to bring it back in was by the seasons dictated it. The seasons in this case is by the barley being ripe. If the barley wasn't ripe, what did you do? Well, they would add a 13th month, an Adar bet, and this would carry on. And by the time they got through those days, until that first sliver of the new moon was shown, then they were ready to begin actually the first month. This is how it kept everything within the seasons and stuff. So the Jews did it all by the month, and those months were dictated by the sighting of the new moon. And a new moon could be 29 days or 30 days. Nobody knew, and that's why the moon is on a 29.5-day cycle. So that barley had to be Aviv, and that's the word they use for it being ready. And if it wasn't, then you added a 13th month. But this was done in spring, at the beginning of spring. That makes sense when you think about how things ought to begin. Then there's growth, then there's decline, and then there's death. That's how the seasons work with spring, summer, fall, and winter. So this is how it all worked with God, and how at the spring that would be like the birth, and then the growth would be summer, then fall would be the decline, and then obviously the winter is the death because everything dies out. This is all do that, but this is how the Jews did it. And actually, there is the name of the months, but they learned these names in Babylon. I think the first month is called Nisan. Apparently, they were driving small Japanese vehicles then. But with that being said, that they God didn't even want them named. They're not even named right here. So if they're not named, then we just call it the first month. You also learn that about the days of the week. The days of the week are also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But pagans came along and thought everything had to be named, everything was going to be named, and they were going to add their own names. What I'm going to show you in the calendar, we still experience it right now. It's really interesting. Well, I don't think a lot of people realize this. But again, a lot of people don't question the origins of stuff. So let's go with let's look at this one here. Pull this up. This says here we're going to look at where all these gods, these names come from. They're going to be derived from gods, and you're going to see it here. So Sunday, as you may be able to guess, is the Sunday, Soul Die. That's what that comes from. And we did a video on that, how the church changed the Sabbath to from the seventh day to Soul Die, SOLDIE. The name of the pagan Roman holiday in its many folk lore traditions, Sunday is believed to be a lucky day for babies to be born. Many societies have worshipped the sun and sun gods. Perhaps the most famous is the Egyptian sun god Ra. You also find out a lot of these, and this also proves that the Tower of Babel was real, because when God came down and separated the language, all these people who worshiped the same gods went in 70 different directions, speaking totally different languages. And all of a sudden, all the gods that showed up in antiquity, whether it be in Rome, Greece, even Scandinavia, Egypt, let's see, Media, Persia, any of these places, they all had the same god characteristics of the gods that they worshiped, but the names were different. Why? Because the languages were changed. So this really absolutely is if you were investigating this to prove that the Tower of Babel was real and what happened there was real, this would be a major clue because they all carried the same gods and goddesses. All right, so what's Monday? Monday says here in this website, Monday comes from the Anglo-Saxon Monadeg, which is the moon day. On this day, people gave homage to the goddess of the moon. It is believed by ancients that that there were 3 Mondays during the year that were considered to be unlucky. The first Monday in April, the second in August, and the last in December. But that's where the word Monday comes from, Monday. Tuesday. What about Tuesday? Tuesday is the first to be named after a Germanic god. I want to say that's Tuaya, a god of war and the sky, and associated with the Norse god Tyr, who was a defender god in Viking mythology. Tau is associated with Mars. See, again, it's associated with Mars. This is another god from another area that has similarities to a god in Rome. So Mars and them, that's how they knew each other. I mean, people would, even from different lifestyles and stuff, would come in contact with each other. They knew which gods they were talking about because they had the same gods. They just had different names. He usually was shown with one hand, only one hand. In the most famous myths about Tyr, he placed his hands between the jaws of the wolf Fenrir as a mark of good faith, while the other gods pretended to play bound the wolf. When Fenrir realized he had been tricked, he bit off Tyr's hand. And this is where Tuesday comes from. Wednesday. Wednesday means Woden's Day. Well, if you've been watching anything with the Marvels and you know anything about Thor, you're going to, these next 3 days, have everything to do with what was going on with the Norse gods. Woden, as we know, as in the Marvel stuff, Odin is a Norse god. Odin, you see it right there in the script, in the paragraph there. Wednesday means Woden's Day. In Norse, Odin, the Old Norse equivalent to Mercury. See that? Another equivalent. This all transcends across antiquity. I can't stress that enough. Who was the messenger to the gods and to the Roman god of commerce, travel, and science? He was considered the chief god and leader of wild hunts in Anglo-Saxon mythology, and but the name directly translated meaning violently insane headship, not exactly the name of a loving and kind god. Woden was the ruler of Asgard, um, and was able to shift and change into different forms. All right, so that's it on that one. So we know that that's where Wednesday comes from, Woden. Thursday. Well, this was not hard to understand. Thursday was Thor's Day, named after the Norse god of thunder and lightning, and is the Old Norse equivalent to Jupiter, lightning bolts. Thor is often depicted holding a giant hammer, and during the 10th and 11th centuries, when Christians tried to convert Scandinavians, many wore emblems of Thor's hammer as a symbol of defiance against the new religion. So there you go. That's where Thursday comes from. All right, Friday. Friday is associated with Freya, the wife of Woden. If you remember again, I love that the Marvel movies expose this, so it's easier to teach it. But you will see that his mother, Thor's mother, is associated with Friday. She's the goddess of love, marriage, and fertility, who is equivalent to who? Venus, or in Greek, Aphrodite, the Roman goddess of love. Again, up here, we see like Mercury, Hermes, that would be another. See, these are the same gods, and they're all associated across antiquity. But that's what Friday's named after. Saturday, lastly, Saturday derives from the Saturn day, the Roman god associated with wealth, plenty, and time. It is the only English weekday still associated with a Roman god, Saturn. The Hebrews called Saturday the Sabbath, meaning a day of rest. The Bible identifies Saturday as the last day of the week. The 7-day week originates with an ancient Babylonian prior to 600 BC, when time was marked with a lunar cycle. Notice that again, that's with the lunar cycle, which experienced different 7-day cycles a millennium later. See, Emperor Constantine converted Rome to Christianity like you said, to Christianity, and standardized the 7-day week across the empire. Rome may initially have acquired the 7-day week from the mystical beliefs of the Babylonian astrologers, but it was the biblical story of creation, God making the heavens and the earth and resting on the seventh day. That will have led the Christian emperor, and I really use that term loosely, Christian emperor of Rome, to make sure it was endured on this day. So, what does that mean? Well, you've got all the days of the week there. All the days of the week have some association with something in mythology. As the Bible says, they are numbered days: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But in antiquity and paganism, it is done through naming them. It's really, that's where we get it from. So if you didn't know that, now you do. So, but the calendar's never really changed. I mean, the seventh day has always been the seventh day. The first day of the week has always been the first day of the week. I mean, even today, people want to think Monday is the first day of the week. But look at your calendar. Your calendar still dictates that the first day of the week is always a Sunday. Just the way it is. And that was supposed to be a day of rest on the other one. All right. Let's see if we can get into this next one here. All right. So, when was the beginning of the months again? Would have been it would have been in spring. It would have been when the barley was ready to go. So this kind of transcends even into paganism. You start seeing it, and I'll prove it to you, even in the month you're in right now. So, and when we go into the what the Roman calendar had, the Roman calendar is a complicated was a complicated lunar calendar. Had 12 months like the current calendar, but 10 of the months had formal names. Basically, winter was the dead period when the government and the military weren't active. So they only had names for the times of March through December, which is kind of weird. But they get added, and all the names take place, and then they run off that solar calendar. That's even what we follow today is the solar calendar. That's where leap year comes in. But is it from the Bible? No, of course not. Even the Bible knew there was 12 months. That's why if the barley wasn't ready, you had a 13th month. But as we'll see here right now, we're going into this, and it talks about the first month here being March. Well, where did that come from? Well, duh, that's pretty easy. That comes from the god of war, because this was the month when active military campaigns resumed. They didn't fight during the winter. And let's see, May is Maius, and June is Junus. Now, not to get really too heavy into this, we go to Maius. In ancient Roman religion and myth, Maius embodied the concept of growth, as her name was thought to be related to the comparative adjective Maius, major. It's going to get into a lot of stuff here. Originally, she may have been a homonym independent of the Greek Maya, whose myths she absorbed through the Hellenization of Latin literature and culture. But anyway, she's obviously a goddess from that time, great goddess, referring to the Roman form of let's see, trying to find it here. This month of May, is named for Maya. So there it is, right there. The month of May was named for Maya. So if you didn't know that, you do now. Go back to this. I noticed they didn't talk about April yet, but we'll get into that in a minute. I believe there was something about April. March, May, there's May. Junus is named after another goddess. Um, June is the 6th month of the Gregorian calendar and is known for the markings of the beginning of summer in the northern hemisphere. The month is named after the Roman goddess Juno, who was the patroness of marriage and the wife of Jupiter. That's where June comes from. Now, going back to this, April. Here it is, April. Aprilis is thought to stem from the Latin word aperio, meaning to open, a reference to the opening buds of springtime. So, there's that. Doesn't have any link to any paganism, but that's where the word April comes from. Now, what I've known is that July is named after the Roman emperor Julius. They named it after him. Well, if you know anything about the Caesars and stuff, they were godlike in their belief that they were gods, and their people believed them to be gods. So, in likelihood of the other gods being named for the months, they named July after Julius Caesar. August is named after Augustus. And that's where it ends with naming of the months. It's kind of weird at that moment. It's like we don't have any more months after that with names of paganistic origins. But the months start being called September, October, November, December. Well, those sound wildly like Latin, and they are. Sept means 7. That's in their mind. September is the 7th month. We look at it as it's the 9th month, but yet here in the calendar that we even have today, in the naming of the month, Sept is 7. October, Oct is 8. We know it as the 10th month, but they saw it as the 8th month. Novi, November, that is for the 9th month. Okay? And then December is for Deca, Deca meaning 10. So the month we're in right now, even though it's the last day of this month, December is named for Deca, 10. That's weird, ain't it? Because there's 12 months. So when you come back around, you've got the you've got 2 more months before you can get back to the 12-month cycle and get back into that spring. So what do? They come eventually. January and February were added to the end of the year. At the end of the year, not the beginning of the year, but the end of the year, giving all 12 months proper names. So January was named after Janus. I'll just go back to the page. We'll just read it together. So right here it says January was named after Janus, the Roman god of beginnings and transitions. That's weird. They gave that name to him, and it's still only the 11th month. February name is stemmed from February, an ancient festival dedicated to the ritual springtime cleaning and washing. So like a month of preparation almost. Um, so you have, and then you can do the history yourself. We're just giving you the names of the months and the days of the weeks and where they come from. But you can go and research it. The Julian calendar was started, and they didn't have the leap years figured in and all this stuff. So there was a little bit of problems with that. That's why December 25th is considered the birth of the sun gods all through antiquity, because December 25th in the Julian calendar was the shortest day of the year as far as daylight went. So that's where that comes from. And nice big ad there. Um, the winter months, January, February, remained a time of reflection, peace, and new beginnings and purification. After Caesar's death, the month of Quintilis was renamed July in honor of Julius Caesar in 44 BC, and later Sextilis was renamed. That'd be the 6th month, I think, if you really want to get down to that. Was renamed August in honor of the Roman Emperor Augustus. Ain't this interesting? I think this is interesting because this is where we're at and what we deal with every day, and we see it in our calendar just by picking up our calendar. But how many people even take time to even look at their calendar and go, "Oh, what? Wonder where this word, Wednesday comes from?" I mean, uh, in my opinion, it's the middle of the week, and a lot of people just don't think about things. Well, where Christmas come from? As we had a video once before. Why do I put a tree in my house every year? Why do I paint Easter eggs in the winter? There's origins for all this stuff, and what you will find comes from the pagan world, and they incorporated this. The church incorporated this into their practices and their beliefs. Ignored all the stuff that was Jewish, casted it off to the side, and said, we're going to follow this, so they could bring these pagans in with them to Christianity. But still, to this day, we have these pagan practices. Lent is a pagan practice. The spring solstice is a pagan practice. The Good Friday is a pagan practice with Dagon. All this stuff has roots. People say, where are you getting this all from, pork chop? History books, and it's backed up with the Bible. And then you have the ultimate thing in the Bible that we are told and warned about. Do not learn the ways of the heathen and say you're doing them unto me, because I will reject them. I don't want it. It's an abomination. So that's why we're doing some of these videos, is to get people to at least ask questions in their own mind. Why and where does all this stuff come from? And there is answers. There is a lot of answers to these questions. So that's what we say today. When we follow these things, I would want to follow God's ways. I would have rather fallen the feast of the Lord than I would the holidays we have today, because we would have been guaranteed at least 3 full weeks off a year, and those would have been 8 days at a time, and it would have been wonderful. But again, man just does not follow what God says, and they went off and created their own thing. And of course, paganism was very well embraced, even in Israel, as it is through antiquity, and even up until leading today. We still have paganism type belief systems. Even though we don't follow it, we are following it with the namesake of these gods and where they come from. Julius Caesar was not a god, neither was Augustus. So they were just men who wanted to rain power on other people, and was named the Roman Caesars. Uh, With that being said, I think that'll do it for the video today. I just wanted to make a good short video on where a lot of this stuff comes from. And today you learned that September, October, November, and December are the 7th, 8th, ninth, and 10th of months. That's kind of weird because today we're celebrating oh, I'm not, but it's the New Year's Eve and the beginning of a new year, which would be January 1st tomorrow. And no, and this you also will know that we go from the 10th month into the 11th month, named after a Roman god, a two-headed god of Janus. So, with that all being said, hey, please like, subscribe, comment on these videos. We really do appreciate to hear it behind the veil. And again, may the Lord keep you. May the Lord guide you and lead you into the things that we need to know. And wisdom is a good thing to have, and knowledge is awesome. So, like I said, like, subscribe, comment, and again, we're going to try to keep more videos coming. We really appreciate all the support we're getting. We had 3 months of almost got 700 subscribers, and that is, I think a good pace. 3 months, almost 4 months, we've gotten almost 700 subscribers. I think it's at 6.99 right now. So that thanks goes out to you people and trying to help us and support us. We're just trying to cover things that you might not hear from behind the pulpit. We're trying to talk about things and trying to think a little bit more deeper than just milk. We like a little meat here at the behind the veil. And again, uh, please like, subscribe, and comment. All right. Well, again, as I like to say here at the channel every time I sign off, we'll catch you all on the flip side. Good day.